Hello, my name is Andrew Tucker and I'm Program Director at thinc, the Hague Initiative for International Cooperation. And on behalf of thinc and ELNet, the European Leadership Network, I'd like to invite you to join Israel on Trial, a 5-part online course on international law, politics and the Israel-Palestine conflict. The world is in the midst of an enormous transition and confusion. In 2010, many thought the Arab Spring would bring democracy and stability to the Middle East. The opposite has been true. Today in the Middle East, there are many failed states and states struggling to achieve national stability. Look at Syria, Iraq, Libya, Lebanon, just to name a few examples. The tragedy of Afghanistan has been playing out before our eyes. The US is withdrawing from the region, and external actors like Turkey and Iran are playing an increasingly important role, let alone China and Russia. Now, peoples and groups in the region are fighting for power. The borders that were established 100 years ago after World War I are increasingly being challenged. There's a kind of reordering of political realities in which religion plays an important role. And the West's attempts over recent decades to build democratic states in the Middle East has been largely unsuccessful. Now, understandably, many people look to international law and international institutions like the International Criminal Court in The Hague to play an important role to give answers. And when you look at the way international law has been applied to the Israel-Palestine conflicts, there are some important lessons that we need to learn. Somehow people think that law gives very clear answers to complex issues. It's said, for example, the settlements are all illegal, that the occupation must come to an end, that a Palestinian state must be created based on the 1967 lines, as if international law is cut and dried in all of this. And this has been the approach of the European Union over the last decades as well. The EU has put in billions of euros through Brussels and separately as member states into building this Palestinian state and trying to force, as it were, a particular solution to the conflict. And it hasn't worked. And there's been no other conflict or people to whom the EU has devoted so much attention and resources. The same is the case in the UN, where the General Assembly adopts resolution after resolution defining the solution to this conflict. The Human Rights Council in Geneva adopts resolutions, appoints commissions, and consistently condemns Israel for human rights breaches. So why is there this disproportionate attention to this conflict? Why is international law said to dictate a solution to this conflict when the same approach is not applied to other conflicts? We think something is wrong. We believe there's an imbalance in the discussion. Israel is far from perfect, but it's also definitely not the worst human rights offender in the world. In this course, international law experts from various countries are going to explain to you what international law is, what it is not, how it is often used and misused by all actors in the conflict. They'll explain why international law often does not say what people say that it does. They will discuss the role of international law in relation to complex disputes like the Israel-Palestine dispute. This is not just about defending Israel. In our view, neither Israel nor the Palestinians nor other actors in the long run are benefited by the politicization of law. In fact, there are many Palestinians who are opposed to Europe's one-sided and one-dimensional approach to this conflict. Now, in session 1, we looked at what international law is, what it is not. We discovered, for example, that the UN does not make international law and that over the last 50 years it's been heavily influenced by blocks of nations, influenced particularly by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the Arab League, which have great influence in the regional voting system. In the next 4 sessions, we're going to look at very, very important hot legal topics. Session 2 will look at the the democratic and Jewish state of Israel. Can Israel be both Jewish and democratic? Is Israel applying apartheid policies? What is the Jewish state of Israel? Session 3, we'll look at the concept of Palestinian statehood. Where did this idea come from of dividing the land, creating two adjacent states? What does international law actually say about this? In Session 4, we look at the international institutions like the Criminal Court here in The Hague. We will look at issues like the apartheid claim. We will look at the use of terror as a political and legal weapon. Session 5, the last session, will take a forward-looking approach. We will look at the Abraham Accords, which were closed last year between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan and Morocco. We will look at whether that's a model for going forward in the region to promote cooperation and peaceful relation between nations. This course is for anyone interested in peace, justice and security in the Middle East. You don't have to be a lawyer. The course is free. It doesn't matter if you missed session 1, you can catch up and join session 2. Sign up. I encourage you to join this exciting course. We have fantastic speakers who are going to be sharing their expertise and experience and knowledge with you. And I look forward to seeing you at the next session on October the 27th. Thank you very much.